Hello, folks. Welcome to Kudlow. I'm Larry Kudlow. Well, Robert Kennedy has endorsed Donald Trump and has all but stomped out Kamala Harris's news value from last night's DNC convention speech. We are going to try to cover it all. It's a fast-breaking news day. First up, here are the hard-hitting points from Robert Kennedy's endorsement of Mr. Trump, and that is the subject of the riff. So Kamala Harris gave a reasonably well-presented speech last night at the DNC, but of course it was full of platitudes and any number of lies about Donald Trump's record, and she worked overtime to hide her ultra-liberal progressivism and her big government socialism. But unfortunately for her, the big news today comes from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has just endorsed Donald Trump. And in a sense, Mr. Kennedy just wiped out Kamala's DNC speech from the news cycle altogether, and Kennedy's logic was particularly hard-hitting and well put together. First up, he said he's throwing his support to President Trump because, and I will quote, "the causes were free speech, war in Ukraine, and the war on our children," end quote. And then he blasted the Democratic Party for its legal warfare against President Trump and himself. Take a listen to this.
The DNC waged continual legal warfare against both President Trump and myself. Each time that our volunteers turned in those towering boxes of signatures needed to get on the ballot, the DNC dragged us into court, state after state, attempting to erase their work and to subvert the will of the voters who had signed those petitions. It deployed DNC-aligned judges to throw me and other candidates off the ballot and to throw President Trump in jail.
Wow. Boy, he laid that right out straight, didn't he? And then he mocked all the Democratic celebrity speakers at their convention by noting they mentioned Donald Trump 47 times just on the first day, and I'll quote, "Oh, who needs a policy when you have Trump to hate," end quote. And then Ms. Kennedy goes on to say, quote, "President Biden was mentioned only twice in 4 days at the Republican convention." But there's more than just Mr. Kennedy's frustration with the undemocratic Democratic Party. Here's Robert Kennedy on foreign policy. Take a listen.
We've pushed Russia into a disastrous alliance with China and Iran. We're closer to the brink of nuclear exchange than at any time since 1962. And the neocons in the White House don't seem to care at all.
And he also put a word in for King Dollar. Take a listen.
Our moral authority and our economy are in shambles, and the war gave rise to the emergence of BRICS, which now threatens to replace the dollar as the global reserve currency. This is a first-class calamity for our country.
Well, you got that completely right. Isn't it something on the economy? Now, it turns out Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Trump have had several meetings in recent weeks, and Kennedy outlined a number of issues where he has made common cause with President Trump. Take a listen.
We are aligned with each other on other key issues like ending the forever wars, ending the childhood disease epidemics, securing the border, protecting freedom of speech, unraveling the corporate capture of our regulatory agencies, getting the U.S. intelligence agencies out of the business of propagandizing and censoring and surveilling Americans, and interfering with our elections.
Very hard-hitting stuff. Very popular stuff. Now, they don't agree on everything by a long shot, but it is interesting on how many things they do agree on and how plain-spoken and direct Mr. Kennedy put it out there. Fascinating to me. Now, as RFK Jr. News filtered out, the pay-to-play betting markets have posted a 51 to 48% lead for Mr. Trump over Ms. Harris. Not only has Kennedy News stepped on and nearly buried any of the Kamala speech news from last night, but basically there was nothing much in serious policy terms coming out of that speech. The speech was well delivered, no question about that. But she lied about Mr. Trump on a number of cases. She lied about cutting Medicare and Social Security. He said 1 million times he won't. She lied about Trump backing this Project 2025 agenda. He said 1,000,000 times he doesn't know anything about it and doesn't support it. She lied about Trump wanting a national ban on abortion because he said 1,000,000 times he doesn't support a national ban and instead favors turning the issue over to the states, as per the Supreme Court, and meanwhile favors Reagan-esque exclusions on rape, incest, and the health of the mother. In fact, it is Ms. Harris who wants a nationwide abortion right, and that would go right through to the horrific late-term abortion. On the economy, it was sort of like Kamala was saying, hey, I'm not Joe Biden, and oh, by the way, I haven't even been in the White House these past nearly 4 years. But wait a minute, you have been in the White House as a key player, and you have supported the Bidenomics tax and regulate and spend agenda and war on fossil fuels and the affordability crisis, where prices have increased faster than wages because of your overspending. She can't hide this, and Mr. Trump will pin it on her during the debates, as he has already pinned it on her in his numerous recent speeches and press conferences. And by the way, she has a tax agenda identical to Joe Biden. Look, chronicled by none other than the recent New York Times news story. She'll kill wages and business competitiveness by jacking up the corporate tax. She'll raise the top income tax on small businesses. She'll raise the capital gains tax from 24% to 44%. And she'll impose the first ever wealth tax on unrealized capital gains. You know, all this reminds me of my dear friend, the late, great Jack Kemp, who often said, you know, you can't tax your way into prosperity. And Jack Kemp often added, you can't have capitalism without capital. But Ms. Harris is not a fan of capitalism, as we know. She aligns with big government socialism. And though she didn't go near it in her speech, she is also a cultural radical, pushing the DEI affirmative action wherever possible and burying the historic American commitment to the value of merit. Now, Harris promised a strong military, but the Biden-Harris budgets cut defense spending in real terms after inflation. And she said how she would keep America strong, but she never mentioned the catastrophic fleeing out of Afghanistan and leaving $85 billion of weapons to the radical terrorist Taliban. And of course, she never mentioned Iranian appeasement and the pullback of the tough Trump sanctions on oil that have been used to finance the war against Israel in the U.S. I'll tell you, I am in awe of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whose policy reasons for supporting Donald Trump are so much closer to what Americans are actually thinking. I do not agree with everything Mr. Kennedy said. We had dinner with a small group of people not too long ago, but we do agree on some issues. And I'll say this, Kennedy's direct and specific reasons for the Trump endorsement and his turning against his undemocratic Democrats, wow, that's pretty big news. That's why he is winning the news cycle. And that's why today he has given Mr. Trump a very big leg up to win this election. All right? And that is my riff. All right. Now